It was late, past midnight. The kind of night where the silence stretches out like a living thing. No wind, no distant traffic, just the low hum of a quiet house tucked deep in central Texas, on the outskirts of Abilene. The kind of place where you don't expect visitors, especially not at that hour. He was in the living room when it started. A soft, measured knock at the front door. Not frantic, not even urgent, just patient. Knock, knock, knock. At first, he thought maybe he'd imagined it, but the dogs, usually lazy, quiet things, lifted their heads in unison, ears alert, eyes wide. A low growl rumbled from deep in their throats. The kind they never made, not unless something was really wrong. He stood, unease already curling in his stomach. No one should be out there. Not this late, and not in this area. Approaching the door, he paused, listening. Silence. Then, knock, knock, knock. 3 more, slow, deliberate. Each one seemed to thud deeper into his bones. He turned on the porch light, but the bulb flickered once, then died. Pitch black. Heart hammering in his chest, he unlocked the door, just enough to open it a crack. 2 figures stood there. Children. Or at least, that's what they looked like. They couldn't have been older than 10. One slightly taller than the other, both dressed in dark, outdated clothing. Hoods pulled up, shadows casting their faces in strange shapes. They stood perfectly still. No fidgeting, no shifting, no movement at all, just staring straight ahead. Something about them was wrong. The taller one spoke, a voice flat and emotionless, as if rehearsed 1,000 times. "We need to use your phone." No pleas, no urgency, no context. Just a statement, like a demand cloaked in politeness. He didn't respond right away. Instinct clawing at the back of his mind. Something primal. He tried to look them in the eye, but that's when he realized they didn't have eyes. Where there should have been whites, irises, pupils, there was only black, deep, endless black. Not like a color, more like a void, like looking into 2 holes in reality. His chest tightened. The air around them felt heavier. Wrong. "Can we come in?" The smaller one now, her voice even colder. Still no movement. Still no emotion. His grip on the door tightened. Everything inside screamed at him to shut it, to lock it, and to run. I'm sorry, no. He slammed the door shut, bolted it, and backed away. The dogs were at full alert now, snarling, barking viciously. One even tried to claw at the window, something they had never done before, not once. These weren't guard dogs. They were family pets, but now they acted like something monstrous was on the other side of the door. He peeked through the peephole. They hadn't moved. Still there. Still staring. But now something had changed. Their faces, expressionless before, now wore something else. Disappointment and hunger. He stepped away from the door. The feeling in the house was suffocating now, like the shadows themselves were watching. He sat in the dark, back against the wall, phone in hand, unsure who to call, what to say. Would anyone believe him? After what felt like hours, he summoned the courage to check again. They were gone. No footsteps, no car, just gone. But the dread didn't leave with them. It lingered, clung to the walls. The dogs wouldn't calm down for the rest of the night. And even when morning came, it felt hollow. Something had visited that night, something not human, and it had asked to be let in. He didn't open the door, but sometimes he wonders what would have happened if he had. It was late in the evening, the kind of night when the desert air feels heavy with stillness, and the vast, empty stretches of Texas seem to swallow everything around you. The road ahead seemed to go on forever, a long, lonely stretch of asphalt cutting through the dark heart of the plains. The only sound was the hum of the engine as I drove, the headlights illuminating the road. Just the occasional rustle of wind across the land, and the ever-encroaching darkness. It had been a long day, and my mind started to wander. The vastness of it all, the isolation. It makes you feel small, like the road could stretch on forever, and you'd never see another living person again. I noticed them when I was about a half a mile out, two figures standing on the side of the road, right where the land met the horizon. At first, I thought they were just another pair of hitchhikers, but as I got closer, something about them felt wrong. It was the way they stood, unnervingly still, as though they weren't affected by the cold air or the darkness surrounding them. They didn't even move when I slowed down, which was strange in itself. I almost kept driving, thinking they were just kids who had wandered too far, but something told me I couldn't leave them out there. It's a strange instinct, one that I wish I'd ignored. But I pulled over, rolled the window down a few inches, and asked if they needed help. That's when I saw their eyes. The girl was the first one to look at me, and when I saw her face, her eyes, everything inside me froze. They were black, no pupils, no whites, just solid black, like deep, endless voids staring straight at me. The boy next to her had the same eyes, black as night. I couldn't look away, like they were pulling me in, trapping me in their gaze. "Are you okay?" I asked, trying to shake off the dread that was creeping up my spine. But they didn't answer. They didn't even blink. I looked away for a moment, trying to convince myself this was just some strange coincidence. But the air felt colder now, heavier, as if something was pressing in from all sides. It was like the world had gone silent, the road, the wind, everything around me faded. It was just them. The girl took a step forward, her face expressionless. Her clothes were dated, like something from a past time. Worn jeans and an old flannel shirt. The boy was in similar clothes, ragged and out of place. It struck me odd how they looked, like they didn't belong in this time or this place. They didn't speak. Instead, the boy, his voice flat and emotionless, said, "Let us in." The words were simple, direct, but they felt wrong. They felt like a command, not a request. I felt the blood drain from my face as the tension in my chest tightened. There was something about the way he said it. No fear, no urgency, just this eerie calm that made my skin crawl. "Let us in." The cold from the air seemed to creep into the car now, curling around my bones, making it harder to breathe. I wanted to scream at them to get away from the car, to run, but I couldn't move. It was like my body was frozen in place. My hands gripped tightly to the wheel. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, my head swimming with panic, and still, they just stood there waiting. I was trapped by their eyes, by the stillness of the moment. The world around me felt like it was narrowing to just that one moment. Those black eyes, those children. I didn't know what to do. I felt a rising sense of danger, something primal telling me to leave, to get the hell out of there, fast. Without another word, I slammed my foot on the gas. The tire screeched as I sped away, my heart hammering in my chest. I looked in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see them chasing after me. But there was nothing, no sign of them at all. Just the empty road, the same emptiness I had seen when I first approached. But my mind raced. I could still see those eyes burned into my vision. The cold, lifeless stare that seemed to reach into me, to strip away everything inside. I kept driving, my hands shaking, my thoughts scattered. The road ahead seemed even darker now, like the night was closing in on me. When I finally made it to the nearest town, I didn't stop to get out of the car. I just drove straight through, my eyes flinching to every shadow, expecting them to be standing there, watching. But there was nothing. I didn't speak to anyone when I got back to my hotel that night. I couldn't bring myself to. The silence in my room felt suffocating. I couldn't shake the feeling that those children weren't just looking for help. They were looking for something else. Something worse. The next morning, I did what anyone in my situation would do. I called a paranormal investigator. Maybe it was crazy. Maybe I was just imagining things. But when I told him the story, he didn't laugh. Instead, he told me I wasn't the first to report anything like this. In fact, similar encounters have been happening for years in this part of Texas. People seeing children with black eyes, standing by the side of the road, or appearing at their doors asking to be let in. He told me about the stories, about the strange things people felt when they saw those black-eyed kids. A deep sense of fear, dread, a feeling that something terrible would happen if you let them in. But what did they want? Why were they out there? The investigator didn't have the answers. But he did warn me, never let them in, never engage with them. He said the few who had tried were never heard from again. I don't know what those children were that night, whether they were ghosts, demons, or something else entirely. But I do know this: I'll never forget their eyes. And I'll never stop wondering if they're still out there, waiting, just beyond the edge of the road, in the silence of the Texas plains. The road stretched out before him, a long, dark ribbon cutting through the vast emptiness of the plains. The air was dry, crisp, and there was no one for miles. The moon hung low, barely a sliver, in the ink-black sky, casting long shadows across the deserted road. It was the perfect kind of night for solitude, the kind of night that would make you forget the world was even out there. The only sound was the hum of the engine as it droned on, the tires clicking over the asphalt in a rhythm that felt almost hypnotic. He had been driving for hours, lost in his thoughts, his eyes growing heavier with each passing mile. The lights of the city were long gone, replaced by nothing but the occasional flash of stars above and the darkness beneath. That's when he saw them. At first, it was nothing more than a flicker in his peripheral vision. Two small shapes standing at the side of the road. He nearly missed them, the shadows blending too well into the night. But then, as he got closer, they became impossible to ignore. A boy and a girl standing perfectly still, side by side. Their faces were pale, almost unnaturally so, and their clothes were simple, clothes that didn't quite look right for the time of year. Too clean, too pristine. Their eyes, though, those eyes were the real horror. He slowed the car down, instinctively drawn to them, but a chill gripped his spine. The closer he got, the more it felt wrong. Something about the way they stood there, motionless, staring, was off. It didn't sit right. His gut tightened. He rolled the window down, the rush of cold air hitting him like a slap to the face. The boy's voice broke through the silence, soft but clear. "Can you help us? Can you take us home?" The request was simple enough, but there was something in his tone, something that made every muscle in my body tense up. He wasn't sure why, but the words sent a shiver through him, like they were asking him for more than just a ride, something deeper. He forced his voice to respond, despite the knot in his throat. "Where are your parents?" The girl didn't speak, only stared with those black eyes as though she was waiting for him to figure it out on his own. The boy, though, his expression didn't change. He just stared, and in the dim light, the whites of his eyes seemed to disappear entirely, replaced by the blackest he had ever seen. A sudden wave of dread washed over him. It wasn't just fear, it was something colder. The air seemed to drop in temperature. He could feel it seeping into his bones. A biting cold that had no place in the Texas heat. His breath came out in visible puffs, even though the night was still very warm. It was as if the very air had turned against him. He felt the weight of their gaze now, felt it crawl under his skin, burrowing deep into his chest. It wasn't natural. These were not children. He didn't know what they were, but he knew one thing. He needed to leave, and he needed to leave now. The boy repeated himself, his voice softer, almost too calm. "We're just trying to get home." The silence was deafening, the quiet night pressing in around him, making every second stretch out longer than the last. He could feel his heartbeat pounding in his ears, and he glanced nervously at the rearview mirror. He had to get away. But before he could speak, the weight of the cold intensified. It was suffocating now, a tangible presence pressing against him from all sides. The car seemed to shudder under the chill. The dread in his chest turned to pure terror. Without thinking, he slammed the car into gear, foot pressing hard on the gas. The tires screeched as he spun the wheel, yanking the car around with such force that he nearly lost control. He didn't dare look back, didn't dare even glance in the rear view. The road stretched ahead, but the feeling didn't leave him. It clung to him, even as the car roared forward into the black void of the night. The cold lingered in his bones, the dread gnawing at his insides, refusing to fade. He kept driving, faster now, as though the night itself was chasing him. But no matter how quickly he sped away, the weight of that moment, the sense of danger was still with him. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was out there. Something had been waiting for him to drive past, something he had narrowly escaped. But how close was he really? His hands trembled on the steering wheel, his breath shallow and rapid, as though he'd just run a marathon. His mind raced, trying to make sense of what he had just experienced, but every explanation he could come up with seemed worse than the last. All he knew for certain was that he'd never drive that road again, and the memory of those black eyes would haunt him long after the chill had worn off and the night had passed, because there was something about them, something he couldn't explain, that told him this encounter wasn't a random event. Whatever had been waiting by the side of the road, it wasn't human, and it had wanted him to stay.